Thursday night is here again, a little after 10:15. The wife's asleep, the children too. That leaves a man with one thing to do. Bring out the laptop, it's time for your date. Settle in and learn your fantasy fate. With a bang, Eddie welcomes you in. He turns his hat, then it's time to begin. The week that was, you might rather forget. Who is the dud and who is the jet? Start the weekend with a dose of the anchor, and laugh your ass off at weekly wanker. Like Federer down at the cots, here's your serve of Thursday thoughts. Like a hobo eating his watts, here's your fill of Thursday thoughts. Like a fat guy putting on shorts, you'll split your sides at Thursday thoughts. Welcome to Thursday Thoughts with Eddie Anchor. I'm your host, Eddie Anchor. We might actually try and do one of these on a Thursday at some point this year, but it's a little bit random so far. We've got the pre-season coming up. It's going to be a huge 18 days. We've got 18 games in 18 days kicking off with Collingwood versus Geelong tomorrow night. I'll be watching it. You'll be watching it. We're all psyched. We'll be looking to pick out as many gun players as we possibly can from the pre-season. A couple of sneaky ones, looking to catch up on some form from some of the injured players. Anyway, we're going to get stuck straight into it. We're going to try and tighten it down a little bit. I think 40 odd minutes was a little bit much last episode, so whether it means I cut something out or I talk quicker, one of the two, either way we're going to get as much into the next 20 minutes as possible. So without further ado, we're going to kick off with our first segment. Buddy Franklin, where has the love gone? I haven't been able to understand some of the conversations I've been having lately with some people. It's like everybody all of a sudden reckons Buddy's a hack. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. One of the best modern day players, just a freak. He's the sort of player you'll be telling your kids you saw play in 20 years' time. He's just that bloody good. He has one bad year, all of a sudden everybody's jumping off. If you look at 2010, he scored 108 average. 2011, 111 average. 2012, 115. That's a huge average for a forward. It was not even close. He has one bad year. He got 90 last year in what was probably his worst year in 5, and everybody's straight off of him. He's kicked 580 career goals in 182 games. He averages 20 games a year for the last 5. The guy is consistent. The guy scores through the roof most of the time. And everybody's straight off of him. Last year he went at pick 6. This year he'd be lucky to be picked in the first 2 rounds, which I find unbelievable. All anybody wants to do is shit can him. Start of last year, I can recall, pretty much all of the pundits' top 50 players had Buddy Franklin in the top 3. I wouldn't be very surprised to find him out of the top 10 in most of them come that time of the year, which should be in the next couple of weeks when you've got Mick Sheehan and all his guru mates bringing out their top 50s. They'll be dropping Buddy Franklin like it's hot. So, we need to find out why it all went wrong for him. Well, for starters, he was getting 3 less kicks per game. Doesn't sound like much, but if you work it out, his average the year before was 115. His average last year was 90. So 3 less kicks a game, that's probably 10 or 11 points. 12 points maybe, depending on how effective they were. Doesn't tend to kick short. So maybe 12 points. So he's looking at 12 points. So already 3 kicks per game. He's down from over 100 to 90. He's getting 2 less marks per game. There's another 6 points. So 3 less kicks, 2 less marks. Now you always say, well, he was getting those less kicks and less marks because he was playing bad. Wrong. It's all about the contract. As silly as it sounds, we're going to compare him to some of the other absolute superstars of the competition and how they went when there was massive speculation about their contracts. You look at Gary Ablett. Now, it's a good example and it's a bad example. The year that he was under contract, he dropped from 140 average the year before down to 130. Now, you're going to be saying, well, I'll be happy with 130 is a bad year, but it's still a fairly significant drop for a guy in the peak of his powers, playing in arguably the best team I've seen go around in the last 30 years. So that's down 10 there. Probably a better example of a player dropping based on contract is Travis Cloke. Look at the stinker he had 2 years ago. He come down from an average of 98 in one of his career best seasons down to 82 the year before. Couldn't kick, couldn't mark, couldn't get the ball. I had him in my team all year and he was bloody awful. Then you look at the year after and they've both gone up significantly. Gary Ablett went up from 130 back up to 139, and Travis Cloke, he jumped back up to about 96 as well. So you've got to look at those sorts of things. Buddy Franklin, he's dropped bad for 1 year. It's his future on the line. You've got to think it's going to weigh on his mind. He's out there trying to earn a living. He's trying to make himself worth as much as possible. If he's not out there just enjoying himself and playing the game, that's one aspect he really doesn't need when he's trying to get a kick. Now, we'll look at why it's going to turn around. First of all, history. History tells us it's got to turn around. The superstars don't stay down for too long. What is it they say? Form is temporary, class is permanent. Now, this guy's all class. First of all, the Swans have a proven track record with recycling superstar forwards. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a couple of blokes called Tony Lockett or Barry Hall. They weren't bad. They went okay. Even Kurt Tippett. Now, he only played half a season last year, but Kurt Tippett actually scored the best he ever has, on average, and he just looked dominant. He looked like a new player. So there's 3 straight off the bat. So there's no reason Buddy's not going to be able to slot into that team. They've got a proven track record of taking players from other clubs and just, how do you make Buddy any better than he already is? Well, it's going to be an interesting thing to see, but I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way of doing it. Secondly, clubs do not pay $9 million over 9 years for dud players. They pay big money for the big players. Gary Ablett, Chris Judd, Buddy Franklin, the guys that get the tickets through the gates. There's a reason why people pay money to go to the football to see these guys play. It's because they're legends. They are just legends of the game. They're not going to just pay that money and expect that there's no chance that he's not going to be a superstar up there. Barring some horrible injury, and God forbid, he's just going to dominate when he gets up there. Look at the sort of players that are getting paid big money to go elsewhere. Judd, obviously, he just ripped it up at Carlton when he got there. Ablett, well, obviously. Callum Ward, he stepped his game up to a completely different level when he got paid big bucks to go to GWS. They feel a weight of expectation when they change clubs. They need to perform. And they generally do. That's why they go after these sorts of players, because they know they're good players. Brendan Goddard last year, he was huge in the absence of Joe Watson. I thought he had a really good year last year. And another one that just, last year, big money come over from West Coast, Brad Ebert to Port. His year went highly under-recognised. Brad Ebert was bloody awesome last year. So there's a couple of little reasons for you. Now, we'll get down to the technical side of it. The Swans' gameplay. First of all, Buddy Franklin's accuracy up to this point hasn't been all that flash, but last year his accuracy was at his highest point that it's been in his career. Kicked at 62% in front of goal last year. So if you look at how many shots on goal he's been having over his career per season, some seasons he's having 140 shots on goal and only kicking 80 goals. Last year he was 62% in front of goal, and he only kicked 60 goals. So that was due to lack of opportunity, realistically. If he keeps up that accuracy with more opportunities in front of goals, he's going to be getting... Those goals go up by 20 goals a season. Easy. Secondly, to add on to the first point, he'll be back in the play. The reason why he wasn't getting those opportunities is because he was cut from the main game plan of the Hawks. It resulted in a lot of dropping of those easy possessions. The ones he would get just on the lead, 10 metres out in front of his bloke. He wasn't in those positions anymore. There was guys like Jack Gunston that was filling that role. The Hawks knew he was going. It was a given. Nobody gets offered that much money and doesn't turn their back on it. was probably in the best interest of the Hawks to let him go. They couldn't afford to keep a player like that for $1.1 million a season. So if you look at Gunston's year last year, his numbers spiked significantly. It's because he was getting all the cheap kicks that Buddy used to be getting. So that those were hard-earned 90 by Buddy. You get him at the Swans, they're paying him big bucks. They want him to kick goals. They want the ball in his hands. The more the ball gets in his hands, the more people are going to pay their money and come and watch them play. And in a East Coast market, that's what they need. That's where they picked up their players. I mean, they started with Warwick Capper, up to Tony Lockett, Barry Hall. These are the guys that keep the tickets churning over. They want Buddy with the ball as much as possible. Now, the small SCG is certainly going to play into his hands. Here's a guy who can kick 60 metres and generally does. When he's within range, he has a shot. So he'll be kicking goals from the centre circle. He averages 6 scoring shots a game at the SCG. There's 4 goals a game. That's 60%. Easy. That's showing peas for Buddy. He'll just be kicking bags. The other thing, he's a big man who can tackle. The Swans have got a highly contested style of game. Buddy Franklin likes to be physical around the contest, obviously to the detriment of himself quite regularly, where he gets himself rubbed out for a rogue shoulder to the eyeball or something like that. But he can tackle. He's a big man who can tackle, and he's not afraid to tackle. He loves showing his aggression. Couple extra tackles a game, there's 10 points straight off the bat. Now, there's been a lot of talk about whether Franklin and Tippett are going to be able to work in a forward line together. One, the big, powerful mark, and the other one, the on the leg, on the chest, bang! Anybody remember Roughhead and Franklin in 2008? They kicked about 180 goals between them, at least. It was almost 200 goals between them. I think Buddy finished with about 113 and Roughhead with about 80. Roughhead was clunking them and Buddy was leading and taking them. It's going to work. Tippett's just going to sit in the goal square, clunk, Buddy Franklin will be out in the lead. How do you play against those two? It's going to be an epic forward line to watch. Oh, Buddy. So, either way, if you want my advice, I would not be letting Buddy get out of round 2. Maybe even late round 1. He is the sort of player that is worth the risk. The Swans have paid $1 million a season, and they're not a club that generally takes risks lightly. I think you can afford to take a risk yourself on a Supercoach team. Alright, and we're back for our next segment. I called this segment Prime Numbers. A prime number is a number that's not divisible by any other number. Now, a few of you maths whiz out there might actually already have known that. I've got a prime number for you. 31. You're looking at me going, what do you mean 31? 31, you can't divide it by anything? Yeah, it's a prime number, big deal. I'm not here for a fucking maths lesson, Pythagoras. What do you got for us? Give me some information. 31 is the hot age bracket for the last 3 years. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for those little sneaky ones to get you across the line in Supercoach this year? 31 is the number you're looking for. Surprisingly, it is the highest performing average age bracket for the last 3 years in Supercoach significantly. Not even a little bit close. There's a sizable difference in average. You're thinking, players don't get better after 30. Most of them, they're shipping them out, they're putting them into retirement at the age of 30. Who's playing at 31? I'll tell you who's playing at 31, and this is exactly why 31 is the prime age. Between the ages of 18 and 30, that's the main part of an average footballer's career. An average footballer's career. After 30, it's what we call rare air in football. Only the best of the best, the truly elite players, tend to make it past 30 and play on from that point. So guess what? You end up with all these superstars in the last 2 or 3 years of their contract, maybe even their last year of their contract, playing at 31. You don't get any of the duds. You get freaking, you've got Hayden Ballantines or Stevie Bakers or any of those freaking pie kickers running around at 31. They're gone. Justin Blumfield, he's out of here. You've only got the elite playing at 31. The best part about it, it's too old for rubbish players, but just young enough for those really good players to still be playing well. They're starting to lose their tags at 31. They've lost that truly elite status, but they're still really quality players. So they've got the young up-and-comers coming in. They're the ones getting tagged now. So you got the old fellas just running around getting kicks, and they're good kicks. They're quality players. They're playing at 31. You don't have duds at 31. You're not going to see Robbie Nahas running around at 31. The push-up will be gone at 31. It's only your superstars at 31. They'll be sitting across half-back. They'll be racking up easy possessions, and they'll be doing it cleanly. There'll be no turnovers. These are the sort of blokes that have been around the system for 14 years. They're not going to stuff it up. The other reason why it's such a high number, it's so highly inflated, is because it's a smaller sample size. There is only a small amount of players playing in 31, so it doesn't take much to look at who these players are that are hitting at the age of 31. So, I'm going to tell you who they are and the players you need to be looking for to get in your team. We're looking to see whether this trend's going to continue this year. I'm backing it's going to. Here's some of the players playing at the age of 31 this year. Scotty Thompson, Drew Petrie, Sam Mitchell, Kane Corns, Nick Revolt, Bob Murphy, Sam Fisher, Sean Burgoyne, Chris Newman, Jared Waite, and Matthew Boyd. That's an illustrious list. There is only 12 players with an average above 70. Now, let's be honest, I don't look at players averaging below 70. My list just gets cut off. So we've got a top 300 players that we generally look at. Ages of 31 this year, 12 players averaging above 70 this year. That's the 12. Those are the players that are going to be racking up the numbers again this year, and that's a group of players that's going to average over 100. Get a couple of those guys in your team. Sam Mitchell for one, he'll be sitting across half-back, exactly like I spoke about. Chris Newman is another, sitting across half-back. He's probably never been a really high scorer, never been one that's really been tagged, but he's a quality user of the ball. If you're looking for a 5th or 6th defender in your team, he's got to play every week. He's as tough as freaking nails. Matty Boyd, he might be looking for a renaissance. You got Tom Limbatore, you got Ryan Griffin. All of a sudden, Boydie's just cruising around getting handballs and kicks. He's got no pressure on him anymore, so he doesn't have to worry about turning the ball over like he does all the time. There's another. Poor old Bob Murphy's hurt his elbow, but he'll be back. There's another one across half back. And what do we got? Jeez, Kane Corns, how good was his year last year? I mean, all of those guys played ball last year. It's not like they're going to stall. Jared Waite, he might have one good year. 31 might be his lucky number. Well, I'm betting those are the guys. So those are the ones. You're looking for some sneaky ones. Pick 4, pick 5. Whoa. A little bit too much to drink. Get those guys. 31, lucky number. And we move on to the final segment of the show. We call it Guess Who's Back? As you've probably told by the music. We're going to have a look at the players that are back from injury last year. These are the guys you might have forgotten about. They were injured late last year, even injured early last year, didn't play the rest of the season. These are guys that seasons were ended by injury last year. They'll be back this year, and I'm going to let you know whether you want to pick them or not. First of all, obviously the main one. The big Texan. Big Texie Walker. Oh, freaking mullet features himself. Big ears. Alright. Apparently, early in January, there was a little bit of knee swelling after training one night. He's had some scans. Apparently, it's structurally okay. Already, they're starting to talk about returning via the SANFL. So, yeah, you can pretty much scrub him for round 1. But, don't worry about him. I wouldn't be risking picking him up early, that's for sure. Big forwards, they're big knees, they're big players, they're cumbersome. He might be back round 3 or 4 if we're lucky. Depends how, the guy's a superstar and he's young. He may come out round 1 in the SANFL, kick 15 goals and he'll be straight back in. But I wouldn't be touching him real early. Maybe around 8 or 9 if you're looking for something but he was never a really superstar scorer as it was. So you got to weigh up how good he was before the injury. He's not going to all of a sudden grow an extra leg just because he's come back from a knee injury. He was an 80 to 90 player before pre-injury, so which consisted of 121 week and 60 the next. So yeah, round 10. You think Travis Cloak went at round 10 last year, so you got to be weighing up where you put him. Here's one that a lot of people might have either forgotten about, or they'll be screaming at their screens going, "Shut the fuck up!" Matty Suckling from the Hawks. He was a guy who was going to have an absolute cracking season last year, only to be cut short by a horrible knee injury. He's set for return this week. He'll be in the pre-season. He'll be ready to go. Keep an eye on that pre-season form. Obviously, you're going to find out how he's going, what position they're going to play him in. Obviously, Brett Guerrero is gone. He's out. They need someone to replace him. He's the man. Chrissy Knights from the Tigers. He's a good chance to line up for round 1. He was scoring well before he injured his knee in that freak. It was like a car crash, that thing. But he'll find something else to hurt. The guy's just injury prone. He can't be helped. I wouldn't touch him. Leave him. Yeah. If he comes out and plays well round 1, pick him up in the waiver wire. But short of that, no, not for me. Brent Riley, another one that was forgotten about. Played really well last year. Bit quiet. I think he was dropped or almost dropped at one stage. Then I think it was the game he was supposed to be dropped for. He came back in and hurt his shoulder, and that was the end of him. By the sounds of it, he's not going to make it to round 1. I'll put it out there. He will not play round 1. So take that as you will. By the sounds of listening to the coach, either he's not fit or he's not in his plans. Either way, he won't be there round 1. Daisy Thomas. Now, he's a man who is absolutely... Remember what I spoke about before about guys wanting to prove a point when they come over to a club for big money? Well, what bigger money was there last year other than Buddy than Daisy Thomas? 700 fucking bones. He'll be over there at Carlton trying to fucking prove a point after last year. Bit of a fizzle last year, to be honest. He's adamant he's over his injuries and he's ready to go. I would expect to see him round 1. He is a superstar when he's fit, and he's got a point to prove. So maybe round 6, he's a bit of a risk. That ankle is proved to be downfall last year, I guess. But remember, he's a big scorer when he's up and running, so you might be prepared to take that risk. John O'Griffin, big men, knee injuries, they never mesh. Look at Sean Wren. As great a player as he was and as agile as he was, he broke down like 2 or 3 times from the same knee. Well, might have been both knees. Big men, knee injuries, it's a little bloody ligament in the middle of your knee. Need a bit of time to heal, and you got to look at it. Even when John O'Griffin was completely fit and playing absolutely to his peak, he wasn't even in the team. It was only when other players were injured, so by the sounds of it, he's not going to be back for round 1. He may not even get a game of his fit. If Sandilands and Clark are up and running, Griffin's freaking setting pins in a bowling alley, so I wouldn't worry about John O'Griffin. Dawson Simpson. He was a bloke who made me look like a fucking putz last year. And like I don't do that well enough on my own. He's the only big man that Geelong really have. They've got Nathan Vardy. He's a little bit shorter. A little bit... Talk about injury prone. He's named to play tomorrow. He didn't do him completely. He didn't blow his knee completely out. I'd be looking to the pre-season for a guide on him, but he's one that you could probably pencil in as somebody you need to be picking up. Speaking of blokes, I just said Geelong don't have any big blokes. I stand by that comment after saying Hamish McIntosh. Stay well clear of him. He'd be lucky to play ever again. He's more injury prone than freaking Michael J. Fox in an ice skating rink. He's just going to hurt himself. He'll do something. He'll slip in the shower. He'll walk in front of a tram. I don't know. Just no. No Hamish McIntosh. Tom Nichols. I can hear a few of his out there saying, "Shut the fuck up. I got him under the fucking table." Him and Zach Smith both suffered serious knee injuries last year. It was a bit of a shame for For the Gold Coast, because both of them look like they're going to be quality. By the sounds of it, neither of them are likely to make an appearance round one, so you could probably cut them out of your plans early anyway. And Gold Coast have got old Charlie Dixon right ready to go. There's the man you need to be chasing if you're looking for a ruck. Dual position, gun. Mitch Clark, not likely to play round one. I wouldn't touch him anyway. He's fucking hopeless. It's a lonely game up forward playing for Melbourne anyway. Even if he could be doing push-ups and chin-ups on the bar, one-handed freaking sit-ups and all sorts. He'd be ready to go, but the ball ain't going to get down there. Useless. Don't worry about him. Don't even pick anybody playing forward for Melbourne. Ever. Ever again. They'll be out of the league in 2 or 3 years, so you don't have to worry about them. Tassie will have a team and they'll be sweet. Brucey can go and coach them for $3 million a year. Andrew Swallow. Conservative figures about round 6, round 7. He might be back early. He's a tough little warrior. He is somebody that's worth risking picking late in the draft. A la Boomer Harvey last year. Come in, fresh, ready to go. He may not hit the ground completely running, but he'll still be a 90 to 100 midfielder, even 75% fit. Gun. Nathan Grimer. What? Talking about Nathan Grimer. Who is Nathan? Why is he on this? He's good for the Brewers, but fucking his average is about 10 points a game. Nathan Grimer. Anyway, he's back, but don't pick him up. Adam Goods. He's back from injury. This guy's had freaking more comebacks than bloody Johnny Farnham. Old Goodsy, he's back up again. That knee's strapped up with gaffer tape and bloody metal rods and all sorts. Apparently ready to go round one, so you pick him. When you pick Goodsy, he just scores. I don't know where he plays in a forward line like freaking Buddy and Tippett and Mike Pike and all of those freaking knuckleheads. Sam Reed. But Goodsy plays, Goodsy scores, so you pick him. Not early, because he's old, but you pick him. Bunga Hearn, the good Bunga, is back and ready to go. He was a high pick last year. I expect him to be a high pick this year. Bo Waters, Hamish McIntosh category. Forget him. He could be going in for surgery very soon anyway, so don't even worry about him. Nick Nat, nobody knows. He's too risky to pick high, but maybe around 6 or 7 pick. At some point, the reward is going to outweigh the risk of picking him up. So, where do you pick him? It seems, I don't know, it seems dicey. The fact that he missed so much of last year and he's still out injured this year doesn't augur well. Won't be in my team anyway. Brett Goods, ready to go, broken off. Scars heal, chicks dig freaking scars, broken bones heal, and Brett Goods is going to score points for you. We're ready to go. Fucking run over time by 6 minutes again. Sorry for that, guys. Hopefully you've managed to pick out the bones of what I was saying there. I've given you some good picks. Have a good one.